If there's one skill you could learn that can 2x, 3x, or even 5x your creative business authentically, it's just learning how to communicate. It's that simple. But the problem with creative entrepreneurship is oftentimes we're so in our creative mind, our creative body, that we lose sight of that other part of our brain that is the structure, the clear communication, the methods and strategies. So in this video, I just want to give you a few tips on how to really communicate effectively so that you can get better clients, feel more aligned about the work that you're doing, and get paid more because you build more trust. First and foremost, why is conscious communication important for a creative entrepreneur? Because there's no getting work without communicating clearly what you do, how you're gonna do it, what it's gonna look like, how long it's gonna take. You see where I'm going with that. If you can learn how to balance your creative mind and body with the strategic, methodical, very systems-based mind, you're setting yourself up for success. You're setting yourself up for success, maybe sex too, as a creative entrepreneur. So the simple foundation of just conscious communication looks like this. You just ask questions. Don't say all of the ideas that you have. If you're going to check out a project, you're on a prospect call, phone call, whatever it is that you do to get new work for yourself, or if you're getting your first project, this is a great framework. Just ask questions and really listen deeply. Really just put your awareness in your ear and listen to what the client is saying. And all you need to do is really feel what they're asking and repeat back to them what they tell you that they want, what they say the problem is, because that creates a very clear line of connection between them feeling seen and heard and you clearly knowing what the problem is. So often we just get caught up in trying to solve the problem immediately, but on these initial client meetings, the only way you need to communicate is to just hold that space, to listen, and to make sure that the client feels listened to. That's immediately going to put you in a whole nother bucket because you're not about trying to solve a problem that you don't know is defined yet. You're there to really listen. And really attuning and having empathy is one of the biggest factors in cultivating trust right off the bat. The second aspect about just creating really conscious and clear communication is afterwards, any conversation, always write up a recap of exactly what you talked about. And I know it's redundant because it might have been 20 minutes ago you just had the conversation. When the client can tell that you listen, you know the problem, and you can empathize, and you have a creative solution, and it's written back to them, that's an artifact that is now time-stamped, can look back, oh, that email was on Monday at 8:42 a.m. Wow, here's just a little quick bullet list. And that framework can look like this. Hey, Loretta, it was great meeting you and your husband today. Thank you for having me in your space. I'm really excited to get working on some designs for these handrails, but I just want to give you a quick recap of how our meeting went. 1, we defined A, B, C. 2, I'm working on this design, this idea, and I'll get it over to you by the end of day tomorrow. 3, we'll touch base for a phone call after you've received the proposal. Have a great day. It's like, oh my gosh, if a client doesn't need to ask any questions of what you're up to during the process, you're a win-win. And not to mention, if you communicate like that, you're immediately building respect, authority, and trust. And trust is the secret ingredient to making more money as a creative entrepreneur. If you can build trust and also just say what you're going to do and actually do it, you're setting yourself up for success because you wouldn't believe how many people, especially in the creative industry, say they're going to do this and then the client has no idea what's happening. The client doesn't know, oh, are they sending me a proposal? They said it was going to be yesterday, it's been a week. Because look, we're creatives, artists, designers, whatever you identify yourself as, we get sucked into the zone. We're in our creative mind. We can spend a week just in that space. But if you can hold that creativity and also realize that, okay, I'm able to do this creative work because I'm working with clients who are paying me money. So I need to be really good to them by making sure they don't have to ask questions in the sense of, hey, what are you up to? We paid you. Super clear. A third aspect of cultivating really great communication that builds a lot of respect and trust, which is going to make you more money, is about money. How to communicate about money on the client meeting, the Zoom call, the site visit, whatever it is. Be really clear on the first meeting, the first time that you're talking about working together, about grounding your price. And what I mean about grounding your price is there's two ways. First, if you're a beginner, I would recommend, because you're gonna have all of your scarcity, your money stories come up, if you're interacting with a client, ask them, hey, what is your idea of the budget that you're working with? Now, I don't recommend this for people who are more advanced, but when you're just getting started, let the client ground the number. One, because you're probably gonna give a number that's too low, and two, it's just about getting work that feels about 75% right when you're starting. You don't always have the luxury of working with clients that are like 100% aligned at the very beginning, and that's part of the learning lesson. So let the client ground the number, and if you're available for that, move forward, even if it's lower. Now, if you've been doing this for a while, on your first meeting, on the first prospect call, whatever it is, ground your number. And by ground your number, I mean you are the one that has the power to anchor the perceived value and the budget that you're willing to work with. And anchor it high. Lead with the higher number. So oftentimes in the work that I do, we work with a range. It's not usually just, hey, I'll do that for $3,500. It's, I'll do that somewhere between $5,000 and $3,500. And you see, it's you anchor with that higher number. I learned that from Chris Do in The Future, and it absolutely works as far as psychology, because that first number really anchors the perception of the price. So communicate really clearly what that anchor point is. And secondary aspect about communication and money, whenever you receive payment, even if it's a check right then and there, when you go home, you do whatever, send a confirmation email. Hey, it was great meeting with you. Thank you for the check. This is just a written receipt that I received the check and it's deposited in my bank account. Something like that. Or if it's online, it's a Stripe thing or an invoice. Just the second that you receive that, take a moment to email, hey, thank you so much for sending over the payment. I just received it. I'm going to get started on the next phase of this project shortly. Just keeping it really clear and concise so that there's no room for question. Did they get the money? What's going on? What's happening next? You see the thread of how simple this is, but how easy it is to overlook. But that's why it's such a key ingredient to success, because it really is those everyday, nuanced little details of running a business that make the client journey so much more full of just clarity and integrity, because they can feel and trust that you're someone who really cares about this process and knows that delivering a really methodical process where there's no room for being vague or abstract, that's really valuable for clients that are giving you money so that you can be creative to sustain your life. The bonus ingredient, which I would say is actually the most important ingredient to conscious communication and success as a creative entrepreneur, is leading with your personality. You don't need to be anything other than you are. Don't try to be serious, don't try to be too professional, don't try to do any of those things. Stand in the integrity that you know you have, the authority and the skill set that you have at whatever level that is. Whether you're an absolute beginner or you've been doing this for decades, stand inside of that and lead with your personality. I attribute a lot of my success with client work and the people that I work with to the fact that I show up and I'm just me. I'm charismatic, I make a joke, I make someone laugh, and that way there's a relationship happening. And the relationship is really where the money is. Because you cultivate that real human connection, that equals trust, like we talked about earlier. And the second you build that trust, you have a beautiful opportunity, because not only do you have an opportunity to have an aligned client experience that feels good and it's just really clear and the process feels smooth, but also they're gonna start telling their friends. Friends are gonna start, you get this automatic, natural sort of ecosystem happening when you just show up authentically. Because who you authentically are is magnetic. Whether that's a personality like mine that's a little bit more silly, or someone who's a little bit more reserved but just leads with who they are, that's such an important aspect about really cultivating a great experience for yourself and for your clients. So hold the authority and hold the authenticity at the same time. Hold the creativity and hold the structure, and you're gonna set yourself up for success. Communicate clearly and often is what I like to say. So I hope that you learned something. If you did, drop a comment below. If not, I'd love to know what you didn't learn and what you'd like to learn moving forward. So thanks for coming. Ciao.